just as God in the Bible designs and creates animals and plants and humans according to his wishes. Now we are learning how to design and create life. The big question is what kind of gods we will be. Will we be merciful and wise gods? Or will we be petty, vengeful, and irresponsible gods?
We're not going to be remembered, Larry, okay? It's gone. No. Dust on the...
Just gone.
What's gone?
That's the
within a week,
thought to me.
a month.
To not exist.
That's right. And do you ponder that sometimes?
Yeah, ponder it sometimes. Yeah.
All the time.
All the
it's
time.
It's like with you. Death is coming. Death is coming your way, Larry.
What the?
It's not far away. So what are you going to do when that moment of consciousness and death, right there?
You die.
And you say, oh my God, I'm dying. Is that going to be the most fearful moment?
Sure.
The moment because you're thinking, yeah, I'm not going to die. I take a few more antibiotics, get the pump going a little faster, and I'll live. But we're going to die momentarily, and I find it fearful.
I'm profoundly haunted by the whole concept of death.
Are you afraid of it?
Definitely.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, well, we should have that in common.
I don't believe people who say they're not. That's the one thing I fear is dying.
Me, man, haunts me.
Because the thought of not existing.
I feel when you die, there's just nothing. It's like when you're asleep and you're not dreaming. But I can't imagine nothingness lasting forever. That's the thing that I cannot get.
I can't grasp. To not exist forever.
Forever.
When does forever end?
We have lost a legend. Larry King has died. He was 87 years old.
On a number of occasions, legendary broadcaster Larry King spoke of his interest in being cryogenically frozen when he died. So, did it happen?
Larry King was obsessed with the idea of being frozen after death. Listen to what he once told Conan O'Brien.
When you die, it's bye-bye, baby, right?
Right. Lights out.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
So the only hope, the only fragment of hope, is to be frozen, and then someday they cure whatever you died of, and you're back.
In a New York Times interview 5 years ago, King said he wanted the full Ted Williams treatment. Ted Williams is, of course, the baseball legend who died in 2002 and remains frozen in a cryogenics facility in Scottsdale, Arizona. Larry King also had a conversation about it with Dr. Oz. The doctor confirmed to Inside Edition today.
So Larry King actually confided years ago to me that he actually didn't believe in an afterlife. So he wanted to keep his body alive, and he found cryopreservation offered him that possibility.
This is Alcor's patient care base. This is where we have all our patients stored, currently 199 humans, plus almost 100 pets. So they're not really dead, they're just legally dead. They're not biologically dead, obviously, because you can donate all kinds of organs that are still viable and keep other people alive. It just means that something critical has failed that we can't fix today. We come at the stage where doctors today have given up, where today's medicine and technology is not sufficient to keep you going, but we're saying instead of just disposing of the patient, give them to us, we're going to stabilize them, stop them getting worse, and hold them for as long as it takes for technology to catch up and allow them to come back to life and continue living. So each patient is wrapped first of all in a sleeping bag to protect them in case we have to move them to soak up liquid nitrogen. Then they're put inside this aluminum pod where they're secured in there, so they have mechanical protection. And then they're secured in these. So these things being made of aluminum are very good temperature conductors. They're very much like people in a long-term coma, except there's no metabolism. So to them, no time is passing. They're not alive, because obviously there's no metabolism, not functioning, not moving around. So people say, well, if they're not alive, they must be dead. Well, no, there's kind of an in-between state, which is not really alive or dead. So in our view, dying is a process, and cryonics stops that process. It puts dying on a pause, and lets you go into the future where we have greater capabilities to reverse that and bring you back to life.
Are you afraid of death? Are you afraid?
No, I'm not afraid of death.
I am.
I'm just pissed off about it.
Yes.
Because, I mean, especially I think when you have a life like we have,
yes,
and then one day it's over, I mean, that really pisses me off.
Governor, where are we going to go when we die? Be honest with us.
Well, the truth is that we go 6 feet under.
That's
and
it?
we're going to rot there. Yes, absolutely. That's it.
I thought you were told me to be uplifting
No,
today.
but that's the reality.
That's how you welcome me
and
to LA?
Hopefully,
Yes.
there is a life after this, and we all know it's going to be different. If there's a life after this, I hope there is a life after this. Well, but it's not going to be like this. I'm not going to sit after we are dead. We're not going to sit here like this and do interviews and have a great time and have laughs and have Robin there, you know, giving us this beautiful smile all the time.
Robin won't be there?
No. So, I mean, this will be different. Maybe there will be angels sitting around, and maybe there will be God there smacking us every time we say something, a four-letter word or something like that, right? I mean, they'll say this, whatever. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it is upsetting, and I cannot stand it.
Are you angry about it?
I'm so angry about it.
Me too.
I'm furious about it.
Me too.
I'm telling you.
Can't we do something?
No, but that's why you and I are so much alike.
I know.
Because we want to be the only ones that will live forever.
Are you afraid of death, by the way? Yes. It's hard because, like, what if you just die and then you just see nothing forever, you know?
Yeah, the nothingness.
It just fades to blackness and you're just like that for trillions upon trillions to billions squared years, and it's scary. But also, before you're born, you don't remember those, X amount of years either, so that gives me a little comfort, but no, it's definitely very scary. Something I'd rather not think about until I'm like 80. I'll deal with that problem then. I don't know if I told you this, but I'm kind of hopeful that someone like Elon or one of these like freak smart people will just like be like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna figure out a way where we can slow down aging, get it where, you know, we can live to be 200-300 years old, and just like set their sights on that, and then just kind of save us. So it'd be really nice. Like it's almost absurd to think that in our lifetime they won't figure out a way to just even slightly slow down aging, where we could live to be like 120 or 130, and then that extra time they won't figure out some way where we could live to be 200. Like obviously not immortal, but I don't see how in my lifetime the life expectancy doesn't just expand.
Well, it also could be that the immortality is achieved in the digital realm. Like it could be long after you're gone. There's a Mr. Beast run by a ChatGPT type system.
Exactly. Yeah, that consumes everything I ever said, everything I ever wrote, and but I don't want that. I want to live. One of you smart people out there, figure it out. I'll keep you entertained, but I need you to figure out how to keep me alive.
Well, yeah, I mean, Neuralink, in the short term, Neuralink is just about solving, brain injuries and spinal injuries and that kind of thing. We could effectively merge with artificial intelligence.
Could you imagine that one day we would be able to download our human brain capacity into a Optimus?
Yes. I think that is, I'm not saying this is, I think it is possible, I think, to do that. It is possible.
Which would be a different way of eternal life, because we would also download our personalities into a body.
Yes. You can basically do anything with synthetic RNA, DNA. It's like a computer program. So, I mean, I think with effort, that's not too crazy. You could probably stop aging, reverse it if you want. You can basically do anything. You can turn someone into a freaking butterfly if you want with the right DNA sequence.
The speed of technological development outpaces ethical underpinning by a huge factor, an exponential factor. Secondly, some people are becoming acutely aware that they need to think about ethics. And some of the global players, to be fair, do think about this because they find the whole development scary. Is it going to get out of control? And someone made a very interesting point. I think it was a mathematician who works in artificial intelligence. And she was referring to the book of Genesis in the Bible. She said, God created something and it got out of control, us. we are now concerned that our creations may get out of control. And then there is the idea of taking existing human beings and enhancing them with bioengineering, drugs, all that kind of thing, even incorporating various aspects of technology so that you're making a cyborg, a cybernetic organism, a combination of biology and technology to move into the future so that we move beyond the human. And this is where the idea of transhumanism comes in, moving beyond the humans. And of course, the view is of many people that humans are just a stage in the gradual evolution of biological organisms that have developed according to no particular direction through the blind forces of nature. But now we have intelligence, so we can take that into our own hands and begin to reshape the generations to come and make them according to our specification. Now that raises huge questions. The first one is, of course, as to identity. What are these things going to be? And who am I in that kind of a situation? Yuval Noah Harari, an Israeli historian.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Yes, of course you can.
To quote something that he said,
yes,
just to frame this so beautifully. He actually said this, because I'm glad you've come to him. We humans should get used to the idea that we're no longer mysterious souls.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens, because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life, after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds, science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm.
We're now hackable animals. Everybody knows what being hacked means now. And once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. Mm-hmm. I just put that in for our listeners as you go on with your interaction with this man.
That's a typical Harari remark. And he wrote 2 major best-selling books, one called Sapiens, Homo sapiens, human beings, and the other, Homo Deus. And it's with that second book that I interact a great deal because it has huge influence around the world. And what he's talking about in that book is re-engineering human beings and producing Homo Deus, spelt with a small d. He says, think of Greek gods, turning humans into gods, something way beyond their current capacities and so on.
Next big projects of humankind will be to overcome old age and death, to find the keys, the secret to happiness, and to basically upgrade humans into gods. This is why the title Homo Deus, God-man. And I don't mean it as a kind of literary metaphor. I mean it in the literal sense that for thousands of years, humans have imagined gods in a particular way. They ascribed particular abilities and qualities to gods. And we are here in a church, and the walls are full of these descriptions of what God can do. And we are now seriously in the business of acquiring these traditional divine abilities and qualities to ourselves. Whether it's trying to overcome death and gain immortality, or whether it's gaining the ability to create and design life according to our wishes. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, basically the first thing God does is to create animals and plants and humans according to his wishes. We are now trying to gain this divine ability to ourselves. It's very likely that in the 21st century, the main product, the most important products of the human economy will no longer be just vehicles and textiles and food and weapons. The main products will be bodies and brains and minds. And in a way, we are even reaching beyond what ancient religions ascribed to the gods. Because the gods, like Jehovah in the Bible, they could create only organic beings. If you're a creationist, and you look at the world, so all these animals, all these plants, God created them, and they are all organic. Now humans are trying to do better than that. We will not just gain the ability to create these organic beings that's been around for 4 billion years. We are in the process of learning how to create the first inorganic entities, inorganic beings, like artificial intelligence, that ever existed. So in this sense, it's a literal claim that humans are trying to upgrade themselves into gods.
That idea of humans becoming gods is a very old idea, and it's being revived in a very big way. Now, to make it precise, or more precise, Harari sees the 21st century as having two major agendas, according to him. The first is to, as he puts it, to solve the technical problem of physical death so that people may live forever. They can die, but they don't have to. And he says technical problems have technical solutions, and that's where we are with physical death. So that's number one. The second agenda item is to massively enhance human happiness. Humans want to be happy. So we got to do that. How are we going to do that? Re-engineering them from ground up, genetically, every other way. Drugs, etc., all kinds of different ways. Adding technology, implants, all kinds of things.
Then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games. But this doesn't sound like a very appealing future.
Until we move the humans from the animal stage, which he believes happened through no plan or guidance. We, with our superior brain power, we'll turn them into superhumans. We'll turn them into little gods. And of course, then comes the massive range of speculation. If we do that, will they eventually take over? And so on and so forth. So that is transhumanism, connected with artificial intelligence, connected with the idea of the superhuman. And people love the idea. And you probably know there are people, particularly in the USA, who've had their brains frozen after death. They hope that one day they're going to be able to upload their contents onto some silicon-based thing that will endure forever. And that will give them some sense of immortality. Now, if you notice those two things, John, solving the problem of physical death re-engineering humans to become little gods, that has all to do with wanting immortality. And as a Christian, I have a great deal to say about that, because what's happening, I believe, in the transhumanist, the desire for that is a parody on what Christianity actually is all about.
Doesn't it to some extent, though, reflect that I think the very great majority of us are conscious that deep down we don't want to think we'll come to an end?
Oh, no, we don't.
I'm an individual who actually has no great aspiration to live to an advanced old age.
Well, I'm the same.
Frankly. But deep down, I don't want to think it ends with that physical death. And I think that's pretty much hotwired into all of us.
I think it's hardwired, and that's important. This business of what's hardwired into human beings, version 101, so to speak, I think is vastly important. And many years ago, I came across that idea in the moral sense. C.S. Lewis talking about in his book, and it's relevant to what we're talking about at the moment, The Abolition of Man, is an appendix at the end where he points out that all around the world, look at every culture, they may differ, but they've got certain moral rules in common. It looks as if morality is hardwired. I believe it is, by a benevolent creator. But now we come up to this, and we see that there's hardwiring again at this particular level. God has set eternity in the human heart. Now, of course, that's a theistic perspective, but if you take the atheistic take on it, then you've got to explain where it comes from. And again, I found C.S. Lewis, as always, right on the money, so to speak. He makes the point, and I'm going to paraphrase it slightly. It would be very strange to find yourself in a world where you got thirsty and there was no such thing as water. Now, I think that's a very powerful thing. That longing, and C.S. Lewis has written a great deal about it, brilliant essay called The Weight of Glory. That longing for another world implies, and these are not his words, but they're his sentiments, that we were actually made for another world. Now, I feel that the transhuman quest is an expression of the fact that we're hardwired with a longing for something transcendent, and it's trying to fulfill it. And I have reasons for thinking it won't do that.
You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over.
It seems to me that focusing on what's going on, I read Harari and I read other books like this, and I say, you know, I can understand what you're looking for. You're looking for something that's very deep and hardwired in us. But, and I make people smile sometimes when I meet these people, transhumanists, and I say, guys, I respect what you're after, but you're too late. And they say, what? Too late? Of course we're not too late. I say, you actually are too late. Take your two problems. One, physical death. I said, now, I believe there's powerful evidence that that was solved 20 centuries ago. It was actually solved before that, but 20 centuries ago, there was a resurrection in Jerusalem. We celebrated it at Easter.
We are really upgrading humans into gods. We're requiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news.
What the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course this has a big impact on your identity.
Au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir.
Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un, on n'a même plus le réflexe de devoir prendre un appareil, ça se fait naturellement. Hein. La technique continue le corps.
Oui, vous parlez et vous dites, je veux maintenant être connecté avec n'importe qui. It changes not only what we are doing, it changes us. Because it's a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological spheres. It's an integration of those spheres. Just think of sensors planted into our brains. The opportunities are immense. And we have to prepare ourselves already now. History meets us now. And governments, as I said at the beginning, are challenged. They have to change.
We're almost in the first generation that is capable not only of implanting chips in human brains and so on, but actually of altering the fundamental specification of human beings by reconfiguring their germline and therefore determining the kind of beings that will exist in the future. Now, one of the reasons I wrote my book 2084, Artificial Intelligence, the Future of Humanity, was precisely this, that AGI, whose agenda is largely driven by atheists so far as I can see, is raising perhaps the deepest question of all that we face today. What is a human being? What dignity, what value, what rights does a human being have? And many years ago, C.S. Lewis wrote 2 books that I think are seminal for understanding this. The first one is called The Abolition of Man, and the second is a science fiction novel called That Hideous Strength. And he talked about the danger of a group of scientists being able one day to alter the very specification of human beings. And he points out that what they will make are not human beings, but artifacts made under their specification. So he says their final triumph will be the abolition of man. And that is what concerns me, because the law of unintended consequences is likely to have huge effects. And there is danger in this world that rogue scientists will start taking human embryos or human beings who exist and experimenting on them and producing a race of freaks that is irreversible. So all of that tells me that we need to think very seriously about human nature. And that's where my Christianity comes in. I want to bring the biblical worldview where we find that humans, model 1, Mark 1 humans like we are given an infinite dignity and value because we're made in the image of God. And I believe we need to bring that insight to the table and bring, I think, a bit of reflection on the biblical worldview into the situation.
What are humans for?
As far as we know, for nothing. I mean, there is no great cosmic drama, some great cosmic plan that we have a role to play in it. And we just need to discover what our role is and then play it to the best of our ability. This has been the story of all religions and ideologies and so forth, but as a scientist, the best I can say, this is not true. There is no universal drama with a role in it for Homo sapiens. And I think that fake news have been with us for thousands of years. Just think of the Bible. But the only thing God managed to create are organic beings. all these trees and giraffes and humans, they are just organic. But we are now trying to create inorganic entities, inorganic life forms, cyborgs, artificial intelligence, and so forth. If we succeed, and there is a very good chance we will, then very soon we will be beyond the God of the Bible.
In terms of Homo sapiens, I mean, could we ever evolve into something else?
This is very likely, actually. I think that within, say, 200 years, to give a conservative estimate, there won't be Homo sapiens on planet Earth.
200 years?
200 years, and I think this is a conservative estimate.
Wow.
Maybe even 100 years. It's not that we'll destroy ourselves in some calamity. Much more likely, we will use advanced technology, biotechnology, nanotechnology, direct brain-computer interfaces to upgrade Homo sapiens into different kinds of beings, beings which are different from us much more than we are different from Neanderthals, beings which will have different bodies, different minds, different brains. I mean, the big products of the coming century will not be shoes or clothes or cars or weapons. The big products of the 21st century are going to be bodies and minds. So I think we are heading towards the upgrading of Homo sapiens into gods. The future of life belongs to intelligent design, but the designers, the intelligent designers, will not be some gods above the clouds. We are going to be the intelligent designers of the future of life in the universe.
The idea of human beings becoming gods is extremely ancient and deeply rooted in almost every culture in the world. And it begins on the opening pages of the Bible, where the fundamental attack on humanity comes from the suggestion that if the humans will only disobey God and eat the forbidden fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, please note, not the tree of knowledge. God is not against knowledge. But if they eat that forbidden fruit, they shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. They did eat it. And they discovered that knowing good and evil is an awful thing to know. But that infected the whole world. And it misrepresents God. So that many people today think that God is their enemy, if he exists at all. And that he's trying to suppress them and not trying to rise to their full potential. Now, the interesting thing is this, the transhumanists, they think that we're going to use AI and other technologies to raise humanity to the full potential of being gods. We're going to solve the problem of human death in the sense that although humans can die, they won't have to die. Of course, that's going to be only for the very wealthy, but we leave that aside at the moment. And then the hope that we'll upload our brains and live forever. But these are utterly fascinating things. Now, they're not going to solve the problem of human death by technology. I'll tell you why. Because no technology, and it's been tried before, the Soviets tried to create a new man, and they tried to make utopia, and other utopias have been attempted. They've all failed. Why? Because they bypassed the problem of sin and evil that's endemic to humanity.
You don't have any answer in the Bible what to do when humans are no longer useful to the economy. Everything that the old religions promised, happiness and justice and even eternal life, but here on earth with the help of technology and not after death with the help of some supernatural being.
But the point is that this whole program is a parody of what the Bible teaches. And that's why it's very interesting. And the biblical worldview, within it is contained the fact that all through history, human beings will make the attempt to build their way to heaven. Babel, the Tower of Babel, was a famous example. Many of the ancient emperors claimed divine honors. The Caesars claimed divine honors. And even in recent times, we had people that seemed to claim divine honors. perhaps the chilling thing is the Bible indicates that in the future there will be a man who will claim to be God and will do all kinds of apparently supernatural things to get the whole world into his power economically. Now, that sounds exactly like one of 𝗙𝗵𝗁's scenarios.
And then finally, I think that from the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was, getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape.
If Jesus Christ broke the death barrier, that puts everything in a different light. Why? Because it affects you and me. How does it affect you and me? Because if that is the case, then we need to recalibrate and take seriously his claim to be God become human. I said, isn't that interesting? What are you trying to do? You're trying to turn humans into gods. The Christian message goes in the exact opposite direction. It tells us of a God who became human. Do you notice the difference? And of course, that actually gets people fascinated. I say, you are actually taking seriously the idea that humans can turn themselves into gods by technology and so on. Why won't you take seriously the idea that there is a God who became human? Is that any more difficult to do? And once you've got that, then I think, arguably, you need to take seriously what Jesus says. And what he says is, and that is the Christian message, he is God become human in order to do what? To give us his life. If you like, to turn us into what you want to be. Because the amazing thing about this is that the central message of the Christian faith to you and me is the answer to the transhumanist dream. One, Christ promises eternal life. That is life that will never cease. And it begins now, not in some mystical, transhuman, uncertain future, but right now. Secondly, because he rose from the dead, he promises that we will one day be raised from the dead to live with him in another transcendent realm that's perhaps even more real, probably more real, is more real than this one. And that's going to be the biggest uploading ever, you see. So your hope for the future of humanity, changing human beings into something more desirable, living forever and happier, all of that is offered. But the difference between the two is radical, because firstly, your idea is using human intelligence to turn humans into gods, bypassing the problem of moral evil. But what I'm saying, John, is that I believe even more strongly than ever that we've got, as Christians, a brilliant answer and a message to speak into this that crosses all the boxes. But it means facing moral reality, which is exactly at the heart of the scariness with which some people approach these issues.
I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, saith the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty. He which testifieth these things saith, Surely I come quickly. Amen. Even so, come, Lord Jesus.